Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. Welcome to the double game week 20 pod of the FPL Wire. I'm your host, Zoph. My co host, Late Riser, and I are joined by our friend, Big Man Bakar. How's it going, buddy?
Thanks for having us off. Last game, it feels like an eternity away. Nice to jump back in. Lots of doubles to come. Lots of meta strategy to be discussed, and I can't wait to jump into it with you boys. How have you guys been?
Let's not get talk about that. Let's talk about you a little bit, Bakar. You've been doing a lot. You've been doing a lot of things. You've been doing some incredible maths, which I've seen on Twitter. Let's not even talk about that. But let's talk more about what you've been doing on Instagram.
Yeah, it had been a while since I put up a picture, so I thought I'd come up with, a nice cheeky caption to keep you guys entertained, and that's exactly how it turned out to be.
Who broke your heart, Bakar? Who is that toxic ex? We need to know.
No one, dude. No one. I can't relate to half the jokes I make. Why do you automatically assume that they have something to do with my life?
Everything is about you, Bakar.
I for one, I'm really looking forward to the correlation between your relationship history and Manchester City assets on this pod, because I think that's a specialty, and I think people are interested in those views as well on this pod. So I'm looking forward to it.
Cool.
Let's jump right into it.
Cool. Let's do a sponsor plug. Let's get started. Lot to unpack today. All data you see on the FPL Wire is taken from the Fantasy Football Scout members area. The new improved members area is now up and running, and the new comparison tool lets you compare key stats for up to 3 players. Player projections are also live, and as always, you can access the custom stats table we create or make one for yourself. Sign up for membership today using our affiliate link in the description below. I'm tempted to leave this up as the image for the whole pod, LR. What do you say?
Yeah, go for it, man. I think it's great. I think it'll certainly increase the number of subscribers on this podcast.
Yeah, I know.
So
6,500 likes on this post. We haven't got anything close to that ever on our YouTube channel. So at least now we should get the likes up.
yeah, absolutely. Go for it, man. Go for it. Definitely go for it.
What the hell?
Let's go. All right, cool. Let's first start talking about the doubles and the fixtures probabilities. There's a lot to unpack here. I have a bunch of tickers up, which I'm going to use over here. But I think the most simple one is the one by Mikkel Tokwam. That's Transfer Algorithm on Twitter. So we've had the doubles now confirmed for Palace, City, United, and Tottenham for this week. Now, the way it's looking, there's a possibility of some doubles for 21, and these are contingent to some FA Cup results. Sorry, not FA Cup, Carabao Cup results today and tomorrow. But either way, we are expecting that the announcement for these should be made by the Friday deadline because there's nothing after the Carabao Cup fixtures to wait for. So the league will probably announce it by then. Now, game week 22, we think will likely be a double for Manchester United because there's a priority to schedule their fixtures due to lack of midweeks going forward. So we do think that their double would be against Leeds in game week 22. The game week 23 doubles for Arsenal and Man City are also confirmed. And beyond that, we don't really know. Things could get thrown in for Brighton, etc., etc. That's all on the bit unknown, but we should have some clarity by Friday. That's where we are in terms of doubles. Go ahead.
Just worth noting that, if the announcements don't really happen by Friday, then the likelihood of these double game weeks to go ahead just reduces. Every day that passes, the likelihood of a double game week getting announced is decreasing by the day. So just wanted to put that bit of information. And if I were you, I'd definitely give Ben Krellin a follow right now so that you're up to speed in terms of what's happening with terms of double game week probabilities, etc.
Correct. So let's talking about Ben now. I just want to highlight now, since we're all a big topic now, which we're going to go into now is Haaland Triple captain. So let's have a look first at the double game week and blank possibilities for the future. So we're expecting 3 future double game weeks. These will all be caused by different postponements. Now, game week 25, we expect to be a blank. If I think City reach the Carabao Cup, then game week 28 is the FA Cup 6th round and game week 34 is the FA Cup semi-final. So these are the game weeks that are going to be blanks. So the pictures over here, you see we could have a possible game week 29. City could play Liverpool or Bournemouth, West Ham. 34, they could have Fulham or one of those guys, and or 37 they could play Chelsea and one of those guys, and this is their schedule.
It's worth noting that out for the listeners. So the game week 29 double game week will be against Liverpool and one of Bournemouth or West Ham. The 34 double will be against Fulham, and I think this is one of the most enticing ones. It's against Fulham and one of either Bournemouth, West Ham or Brighton. And if in 37 they have a double, it's against Chelsea and one of Bournemouth, West Ham or Brighton. So it's worth noting that out because the first fixture is quite important in terms of whether you're saving that double game week option for the future. That's all.
Correct. And the schedule is, of course, quite crowded. If the progress in competitions, you'll have Champions League fixtures, you'll have various cup fixtures around it. So rotation is definitely going to be a concern around then.
Yeah. Just worth noting though, because again, I think it's worth pointing out actually that if you guys are on the audio for this one, I think for this particular podcast, going to the YouTube stream might be a good idea. But just go diving a little deeper into the double game week discussion and the triple captain discussion. There isn't a Champions League break in game week 29, which is a double, which is Liverpool and Bournemouth or West Ham. It's worth noting that this is going to be the first game week after the international break. And game week 29 is an important criteria because the way things are going, we're expecting blanks in game week 25 and 28. Now, the blanks in 28 are due to FA Cup, and there might be a huge number of blanks. So what could happen as a strategy is that you could dead end into game week 28, and then what happens is either you're wildcarding or bench boosting. You're likely wildcarding in game week 29. So the chances of you using the triple captaincy chip in game week 29 are lesser. Similar is the case for game week 34 and 37 as well, because 34 is one of the bigger doubles. So you might be deploying another chip in that game week as well. So if you're targeting Erling Haaland as a triple captaincy option in the future, I think your best option outside of 20 and 23 is probably game week 34, because I see us deploying either the bench boost or the wildcard in game week 29.
Right. I don't think it would be the bench boost.
Is likely to be the 34 is likely to be the bench boost week. I think in game week 37 is around the Champions League semi-final, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
So again, that will increase his risk of rotation. So that's the opportunity cost. I mean, right now in 20 and 23, the fixtures aren't as good, but his expected minutes are higher. But later on, if you sort of risk it, leaving it till the end, then his expected minutes might not be as great.
Correct. Absolutely spot on, guys. I think we summarized that. Now let's not start talking about City. Now all the assets, forwards, midfielders, and defense. I've got the stats table up here. Now these are the numbers since the restart. In terms of XGI, you have 3.48 Haaland on top. He's only scored 3 goals, but the numbers have been good.
Yeah. Where are you at? I think let's just cite where we are with the triple captaincy thing. Zoph, are you leaning towards using it now, 23, or keeping it for the future? I did read a tweet from you thinking you're even considering Rashford. If that 22 if that double for United in 22 comes up. I'm surprised you're still not wearing red today, but where are you with that?
So I think the fixtures for City, the way they're playing right now post the restart, they're not blowing away teams. It's much more control. And I think at Old Trafford in particular, we saw that even at Stamford Bridge, they were much more ruthless at home in the FA Cup against us. So I think when they're going at United, I don't see more than 1 or 2 goals. Maybe against Spurs, there's a possibility of more. The ceiling doesn't feel very high, but then again, they could just click any day. It's not that something that you can really predict with City. They have such a high ceiling in terms of goals scored. So I'm currently leaning towards doing it.
Yeah, and game state too, right? Early goal in either the United or Spurs game and could be a bloodbath. That's what they need against the big teams. One early goal and then City are in.
Yep. Bakar?
Yeah, I think I'm likely to use it in 23. Personally, that's where I'm leaning towards at the moment.
Why?
There's a slight chance of me doing it this week as well, simply because I want to triple captain Haaland. I don't think I'm going to get a better opportunity later on this season. So I'm likely to do it either this week or in 23. I slightly prefer the fixtures in 23 just because of that Villa at home fixture. I think is better for City as compared to the ones this week. But I will definitely give it more thought before the deadline. But as of now, I'm leaning towards Gameweek 23 for triple captain.
There is going to be an FA Cup fixture just before Gameweek 23. I have the entire schedule up in front of me. So they might rotate players. So I guess minutes should be secure then. That's a decent shout.
Yeah, but yes, I don't think that's likely to be too much of an issue. And just the way United are playing these days, I mean, that's the one game where I'm not entirely confident. I won't be surprised if United won that game, which is why I just feel a bit hesitant going this week.
Just wanted to cite though, because I've been watching United closely, right, since the restart. We've been playing well, but we've been relying on De Gea to keep those clean sheets. I think it's worth mentioning that. We have been conceding chances, even against Bournemouth at home. In the last 20-25 minutes, De Gea made 2 or 3 good saves, and that's been the case throughout. It's not like we are razor tight and we are not conceding chances. And I think similar applies to Spurs as well. So I just wanted to say that if somebody wanted to go for triple captaincy on Erling Haaland this week, I have no reason to deflect you from it. Like if you're wanting to go for it, do it. There is really no reason on paper that I can say that, no, you know what, these fixtures are difficult or whatever. No, City is the best team. They're above United and Spurs when it comes to quality of the team and quality of the players. When it comes to who I'd want to triple captain as an FPL asset, I think Haaland is clear of anybody else at the moment. Like it's quite obvious, but it's worth spelling it out that there's nobody as good an option for that triple captaincy chip as Erling Haaland, no matter who the opposition is. So I think that's worth citing. So like it almost feels like it's obvious and you should do it and there's nothing wrong for it. So even I'm thinking a lot more against it. The thing is, I'm a United fan, so I'm like, yeah, maybe a little heart might rule the situation here, and I'm happy to give him the captaincy in Game Week 23. But I'm at the moment leaning towards using it now rather than saving it in the future.
I mean, in the only go ahead.
Yeah, only the one thing worth citing though is that the gap between the games is just great right now. And even in 23, the gap between the games is 1 day lesser, which I think is significant because the schedule gets more and more condensed the further we move into the season. So do the minutes accumulated, even if it's Game Week 23 we're talking about. So I think that's worth citing as well. I think if you're talking only about expected minutes, Haaland's expected minutes are highest in Game Week 22.
Now, looking at the other side of the coin, I expect his EO to be close to, let's say, 220, 230%. So effectively, you're going to be gaining 60 to 70% of Haaland's points. Right now, looking at the other side of it, you could potentially go with somebody, an alternative, later on in the season, like De Bruyne was very late on. And that's going to really give you the big sword. You're going to gain 200% of that. So that is, again, something to keep in mind. A lot of people like to use it in that direction.
Yeah. Yeah, but I just think that we didn't have a Haaland last season. Like, I think that point shouldn't be lost, that there is nobody in the vicinity of Erling Haaland as the best pick in the game, hands down. Like, Salah was somewhere there, and towards the fag end of last season, he was somewhat, De Bruyne was pushing him and Son was pushing him. But this year, Haaland is 3 levels above everybody else. I think it's just worth citing that he's clearly the best option in the game.
I agree, but it doesn't feel like a no-brainer like Norwich Leeds for Salah we had last year.
Yeah, but that's Salah, and I just think that he wasn't as significantly a good. We're talking about somebody who's going to score 30 league goals in his first season in the league. Like, we haven't had this caliber of a player in the league. Salah, even Salah in his season, last season, one of his better seasons, wasn't close to reaching the numbers Haaland does. So I think that's worth citing, because like, you might want to be differential, etc. as well, but Haaland's just clear. Like, that's important. You should look to triple captain Haaland. That should be your priority thinking.
By the way, Luke in the chat has raised an excellent point in which he says that the FA Cup game is against Arsenal, so he doesn't think that Pep will rotate. Also says that the double of Villa Arsenal is 3 days apart, which is one less than this game week. And also Arsenal have an extra rest day as compared to City in game week 23.
That's something to keep in mind. He could very well bench Haaland.
Yeah, worth mentioning. Also, since Luke is here, just worth mentioning, he's going to be joining me on Thursday, because we are going to give an even more detailed breakdown on Manchester City. He does a fabulous job of predicting Manchester City teams, and it's really, I mean, I've been looking into this in the last 2 or 3 days, and it's intense in terms of how many moving parts there are in a Pep Guardiola team, where you can say that one player is nailed or isn't, but actually there is so much in terms of the players, the system against the formation, against the moving parts. If one player is preferred on another side, it changes 2 other players on the other side. There's so much to this, and I'm happy to have Luke join me on Thursday and break this down further.
Cool. Let's talk about some of the other City assets now, besides Haaland, and somebody who's on your mind.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much to that right now. I think might be a little bit of a monologue here, but I think it's worth mentioning. I think Bakar, do you own De Bruyne or not?
No, I don't. I have Salah in my team.
Yeah, so I think Zoph is in a great position compared to both of us, because I think Haaland and De Bruyne for these doubles are sort of must have. And I think it's important to have a little bit of macro chat here, because City have an assured double in game week 23 against Villa and Arsenal. So, your thinking is that the City assets that you have right now, you ideally want to hold on to them in game week 23 as well. So even if it's taking an extra hit or 2, you want to get the right 3 City in place that you want to see through until game week 23 and even beyond. Because I think most of us are going to be wildcarding around the 28-29 bracket. So essentially building your team until 28. And I think this week and the transfers we make this week, even if it's a -8, -12, are some of the most important transfers you're going to make in this phase of FPL. Keeping that in mind, I currently own Foden and Cancelo. And Cancelo is a little bit of a problem because there's so many moving parts here. But to keep it simple, Pep likes to play a standard system which involves a 4-2-3-1, if you're looking at it just as a formation, not in possession or out of possession. And currently his preferred 4-2-3-1 is going with De Bruyne, Grealish on the left, and Mahrez on the right behind Haaland. It's what his first choice team has been since the restart. What changes is he likes to change his system up against 3 at the back. Now, again, trying to keep it simple here. When he's playing 3 at the back, and I'm mentioning that because Spurs are likely going to play 3 at the back, he likes to have more width. And which is why Cancelo was tried against Chelsea. It didn't really work out. And there's a lot more reasons to that. But the main reason was Rodri was in different positions, in and out of position. But there are more wider players, and the chances of Mahrez starting in that Spurs game are slightly lesser compared to the first game. He's much more likely to start the United game. Also worth mentioning that 2 game weeks later, Manchester City are playing Spurs again. But the entire conversation around this, that if you're trying to get into the tactical analysis, what talks against it is Mahrez's form. Mahrez has been City's sharpest attacker since the restart. And Pep cited that multiple times. Pep's spoken in his interviews about how he's changed the game every time he's come on as well. And you do take Pep's word with a pinch of salt also, because I've been picking Luke and Rahul_Mud's brains a lot in the last 3-4 days, and all it really takes is one poor performance from Mahrez, maybe against United, a draw or a loss there, and then the expected minutes for a Mahrez aren't out, because the people who can take up that position are the likes of Phil Foden and Alvarez and Bernardo Silva, who are really, really good players. But if you're somebody who's willing to bet on Mahrez's skill set and his form, currently he's as good a pick as De Bruyne if you're looking only at output. But De Bruyne's expected minutes are way, way more secure. And I think if you're looking at Manchester City assets, you need to look at Haaland. You need to get in De Bruyne, I reckon, especially because they have a double in Gameweek 23 as well. And then you pick whether you want to lose out on Foden, whether you want to get a John Stones, which Zoph and I have been having a chat with Zoph as well. Both Zoph and I think that the best City defender to get right now is John Stones. But whether you want to lose Cancelo or not, again, is such a subjective matter where, currently he's out of favor, but it takes one good performance for him to come back into the team. But Zoph, you were talking to Falsey and he had an opinion on Cancelo. Why don't you cite that?
He just said that Cancelo has not looked as fit coming back post the World Cup. So short term, he is a rotation risk. But looking at the larger picture, right? Cancelo as an asset, the reason we pay 7+ million for him is because he's nailed on. His attacking threat or attacking numbers simply don't justify it. And now that week to week, during Champions League games, anytime you could slot in Rico, you could slot in Ake with Walker at right back, that appeal is removed. I don't think he's simply worth 7 million plus anymore, especially since City aren't keeping that many clean sheets. I think him and Stones will get similar number of minutes.
You think they'll get similar number of minutes? You don't think Stones will get greater minutes? You don't think Stones is more nailed on than Cancelo?
In the short term, Stones is definitely more nailed on. But in the long term, let's say now we look at City's schedule now. I'll just bring this up now. Now you see they play United, they play City, and they play United, they play Spurs on Thursday, then they play Wolves on Sunday. I expect Cancelo to miss that Sunday game and then play the Arsenal FA Cup game after. Cancelo and Stones could both miss that home against Wolves. Things like that.
Yeah. If you ask me, actually, right now, Cancelo is much more nailed on to play the easier games than the tougher games. Again, but this is a moving part. Like Pep's opinion changes every week, every 10 days. He's looking at who's sharp, who's looked good in training. One good performance from Cancelo and he's in. And it's very difficult for him to move out of that first choice team. There's that many moving parts here. And what's also happened is City's entire defense is fit. Whether you're talking about Walker, whether you're talking about Rico Lewis emerging as an option, all of these guys are fit. So in terms of security, at the moment, Cancelo's expected minutes are lesser. Luke doesn't have Cancelo starting either of the games. I'm going to ask him on Thursday after the Carabao Cup. And Rahul has Cancelo starting one, maybe two. Walker looks likely to start. A lot of people are looking to punt on Rico Lewis. It doesn't look like it's a good punt because Lewis is going to be... Is Lewis going to be facing the likes of... Walker's going to be facing the likes of Rashford and Son, right? So you want Walker in that team against this kind of opposition. So I don't think that punt is called out for.
Let's just dumb it down a bit and rewind. So let's go first. Haaland Triple captain at 20. Are you in or out, Pranay?
I'm currently undecided, but I would... I have nothing against it. I think it's a really good move. I have nothing against it. I think it's a good thing to do. I'm a United fan. That's why my opinion is a little clouded, but I think you do it if you can. There's no reason to not do it.
Bakar?
Yes, as I said, I'll be using the triple captainship in 20 or 23, and depends on how I feel closer to the deadline. I might do it this week.
Both of you guys are sitting firmly on the fence. I think I'm going to do it.
You think you're going to do it? I haven't made up my mind yet, and the only reason is because one of the games is United. And it screwed me over last time because I didn't captain Haaland.
And the same thing happened with Salah also last season. So I don't think you should let that play into your mind at all.
Yeah. But like I said, that's why I don't want to urge our listeners and tell them that there's no reason to not do it. I don't think fixtures matter that much. City are good and United have been conceding chances, and so have Spurs.
Yeah,
maybe the ceiling isn't as high, but it's Haaland.
Now, let's get to De Bruyne. I think if you have Salah and you don't have Foden, I think it is an absolutely no-brainer. So far, Salah has outscored De Bruyne by 10 points, even if you have to take a hit for that. And it doesn't matter if you're already on a -4, you're already on a -8. Look at each hit in isolation.
Yeah.
And I had the same discussion with Pras when I was in the Burning Questions chat. Ultimately, even if you take the hit, you're 6 points up on the deal. You're still 6 points
Exactly.
up than if you had started with De Bruyne. So just do that transfer blindly. I don't care what other hits you're taking. Do it.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm considering a -12 this week, and I just don't think you need to be afraid of setting up your team until game week 28 this week. So it's the best week to take hits because the chances of it paying off by the time game week 28 comes is higher. The further you postpone it, the lesser the chances of it paying off are. So just take the hit.
Zoph, the counter to that is I'm likely to go from Salah to De Bruyne myself, but if Liverpool have a confirmed double in 21, then that is what makes it tricky, because essentially then it's 2 transfers having to sell Salah this week and then possibly bring him back later next week.
Correct, but you can work with what you know. It's a bit trickier now if that double gets announced for 21. But even then, you just do the transfer and captain, right? Even if you have to take a hit for a transfer, it's always worth it for a double game week captain.
Bird in hand, Bakar. Bird in hand.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, if it was just a one-off double game week for City, I might have sort of wanted Mahrez more than De Bruyne because I do think that in this double game week, there's a good chance that Mahrez can even outscore De Bruyne. But over the long term, I think obviously the safer place to go with De Bruyne.
And you have to reverse the move.
You need to get De Bruyne.
It's fine. And if you have to reverse the move to captain Salah next week, it's absolutely fine for me. And you have to bring him back again for 23. It's fine. These are the guys you need to use your transfers for.
Yeah, that's fair.
Also, worth pointing out, I did have a word with Talan Nadeem and James from Planet FPL. Both of them are fairly tuned in with the entire schedule. Neither of them, as things stand, are expecting a Liverpool double in 21. So just thought it's worth mentioning. It's a guessing game, but just thought I'd give that information out.
Right. Now that De Bruyne's out of the way, let's talk about the other midfield assets. Now, if you have somebody like Foden, Pranil, what are your thoughts there?
So there is one moving piece in this puzzle that is worth pointing about, is that Grealish wasn't a part of the squad in the FA Cup game, and the reason cited was sickness. Now, if Grealish isn't going to be playing today, and if that sickness is an issue, then I don't think I'm going to sell Foden, because then Foden's expected minutes over the double slightly increase. If Grealish is fit and he's fine, then I'm tempted to make the switch. I'm looking to get De Bruyne and Haaland, and then I'm weighing up whether I'm getting Stones, whether I'm selling Cancelo, whether I'm holding Foden or getting Mahrez. At the moment, if Grealish is going to be fit, I'm leaning towards getting Mahrez because I think the upside is there. I think he's looked really, really sharp. But the only reason I won't sell Foden is if Grealish is sick, because then Foden becomes first choice and the best option on that left-hand side.
So you're thinking triple attack?
I'm thinking triple attack. But that's my thought at the moment, because again, there's so many moving pieces, and I think it's worth citing that right now because there's a lot of macro strategy involved around this. Right now, we're having a United double right now. I think most people are on Rashford plus one United defender. Are looking to bring in another United attacker or Dalot in. And we're probably going to need or want 2 Arsenal attackers by the time game week 23 comes. Now, there's only that many spots. And this is an important piece of macro discussion to have because, as I know it's Zoph, you're considering Kane. And we don't have enough spots in attack. Like if you're going triple City attack, that's 3 spots occupied by City. If you're wanting at least 2 Arsenal attackers, that's 3 + 2, 5 spots out of the 8 that you have. Most of us have Darwin or Salah in place, and we want double United attack. Where are the spots in attack? Which is why I'm thinking that either a City attacker or a United attacker, I need to compromise maybe and get either a City or a United defender in place. But if I could help it, given the fixtures, I want Mahrez as things stand, and I want a second United attacker as things stand.
Bakar, where are you on Foden?
I do think the Mahrez is the City midfielder to go for. And if I was picking one right now, I completely agree with Pranil that Foden to Mahrez looks like a good move to happen, especially if Grealish is back fit, because I do think these are the kind of games which City have coming up against United, against Spurs, where Pep will want more control. And in that case, I would think that he'd opt for Grealish and Mahrez together. And I do think that Mahrez is first choice. I don't think he's going to be dropped or will be rotated, because that's something I see written in the FPL stratosphere and the circles on Twitter, that Mahrez could be rested like he has been, over the years. But I don't think he's in such a risk vein of form. I think he has 10 attacking returns in 12 appearances since October. So I think he's one of Pep's undroppable players right now. So if I had Foden, I think I'd move to Mahrez. But Cancelo is the more trickier one I wanted to talk about. You guys were talking about him earlier. I watched the Chelsea game, and even when he did come on, he didn't really look great. I mean, Chelsea attacked him by my estimation 3 or 4 times down his wing, and he got beaten every single time. He didn't really look that great, and I don't think that he's going to start either of the 2 fixtures in the double, which is what makes it very tricky to hold on to him. But then again, do you sell him for a hit? That's tricky in itself. I do agree that Stones is the best City defender to go with, because he's been the best City defender over the course of the past month or so. But whether or not I do it for a hit is the tricky question, and that's what a lot of us are trying to find the answer to. Personally, I think if you have to prioritize De Bruyne this week, like you guys have said, and if I had the choice, I would go with triple attack over the defender.
That's fair, because maybe you could move one attacker on the next week. And I don't think City defense is very much essential in any way.
Essentially. And, Zoph, the fixtures themselves, I do think United score. I do think Spurs score. So it's not just that. Even if the defender is starting, I don't really have high hopes on the City defense this week.
That's fair.
Also, what's citing just the City defense in general. I was talking to Rahul again. I think you need to follow him if you're into City tactics, etc. as well. His account is Rahul_MADH Mud. He said that the pressing that City do, the pressing system has changed, wherein they're taking a lot more risks, which is why they're conceding a lot more bigger chances, because there's a lot of 2-on-2 versus 2s or 3 versus 3s, which have been happening since the restart at the back. And this is because their pressing system has changed, and Pep has become a slightly bigger risk taker in attack. So it's worth putting that piece of information out. That said, he did mention that, Pep is also aware that it's United and Spurs, and they have these fast players to hit on the counter. So he could play 2 in the pivot instead of 1 to have a greater defensive setup, not leave his defense exposed. But he wasn't very big on City being as good defensively and continuing to be as good defensively as they have been previously.
Cool. So where I am on the City assets, I think if you have Foden and he's your third City slot, which blocks you from getting De Bruyne, he's a sell. But I wouldn't move him sideways to somebody like Mahrez, because it's a flavor of the month thing with Pep. Anything can change, and you're buying your City guy, I think, ideally for game week 23 as well. And what happens from now and almost 1 calendar month, there are a lot of games and a lot of competitions by then. Everything could change. So I certainly wouldn't make the Foden to Mahrez move. The question now is whether to sell Foden for, and I'm not seeing anybody I would really buy this week in midfield besides Rashford, who most people already have, and you're probably going to have other transfers elsewhere. So I wouldn't lose him for a hit. If you have him for a week this week and he's not blocking De Bruyne, stick with him there. Now getting to defense, the thing with Cancelo is, again, long term. You can use this as an opportunity to fix your team long term. And I think Stones is Pep's first choice centre back. Even when we had the partnership with Diaz, he was the one who's getting consistent minutes, and he's just playing very well. As simple as that. He's their best performing player in terms of tackles, in terms of passing, and he has goal threat. Since the restart, I think, not even since the restart, since the last 5 or 6 matches, he's had 6 shots. It's not bad. We all have memories of that 27-pointer. Both you guys had him during that double. I had Diaz. So I remember it possibly a bit more vividly than you guys. He's already hit the post once. I remember that as a De Bruyne owner as well. So Stones is good for bonus. I'm not seeing a particular reason not to pick him. And the good thing is he very rarely gets subbed on or subbed off. So that's when our bench also comes to play. If you have Cancelo, there are going to be a lot of 1-pointers in store.
Yeah. And I've seen a few people looking at Ake. I definitely go Stones over Ake, because Ake's competition on paper is Cancelo. So just a bigger threat there. And that's what doesn't make him an option, in my opinion. However good Ake has been, he is playing left wing back or 3 at the back, because Pep's system in defense is 3. He's competing with Cancelo for that spot, and that's why I prefer Stones, who I think has lesser pedigree of competition for his spot.
Yeah, the more pertinent question here is, but do you prefer Stones to someone like, let's say, Dalot from United? Because a lot of managers find themselves in this position where they will have to decide between either a City defender or a United defender. So which way would you guys lean?
I have some concerns about Dalot's game time, and LR, maybe you can talk a bit more about them, because I know he started every game in the last, few game weeks before the restart, but Wan-Bissaka has improved, and the schedule now for United is a bit tight. I have the fixture schedule up now. Remember, you guys have that Barcelona game as well. So now effectively starting from tomorrow, that is tonight rather, against Charlton, you have games now every 3 days leading all the way up to mid-February. Wan-Bissaka is going to get certain minutes, games in United against Palace, Leeds in the near Barcelona. You could easily see Wan-Bissaka playing one of these games.
Yeah, but the thing is, he'll probably play one game. Like, I'm not too worried in terms of how much more Dalot offers in our team, how much of a first choice he is. So, and he's a little bit of a fitness monster as well. So because of fixture congestion and the red zone thing amongst athletes, maybe he misses 1 out of the next 6 league games. Like, that's the worst case scenario in my head. I'm not too worried about Dalot's expected minutes. I think he's a fine pick. No problems there.
Do you think he's worth a double up? I know we don't do eggs in baskets, but looking at the fixtures and stuff, do you think he's worth a double up? Many of us already have Shaw.
I see no problems, because again, he's 4'6", 4'7". Is he going to offer bang for buck? I mean, the fixtures right now are City, Palace, and Arsenal. But after that, and that's one of the reasons why I think you take further hits to get 3 United in place also, because 22 to 27 for United beat Palace at home, Leeds away, Leicester at home, Brentford at home, Liverpool away, and Southampton at home. Like, if I ask Siri to give me a great run of fixtures for any team, it'd probably be a lineup like this. So I just think you get your 3 United in place right now, even if it's for an extra hit, because especially with the news of the potential double coming in place, the fixtures are just good. And Dalot is a good pick on paper. There's nothing wrong with it. But if I could help it, I'd go in with 2 United attackers instead of 2 United defenders. The problem is a lot of people have worries over anybody that's not named Marcus Rashford, and we'll dive into that later.
I don't think the fixtures of the double are very good for clean sheets. I know Palace didn't score against Spurs, but at home, you generally expect them to do well. They haven't scored either of these 2 home games. They were down to 9 against Fulham. And against Spurs, they didn't concede that many XG also against Spurs, by the way. It was only around 1.5 odd. So the next 2 game weeks are not ideal for clean sheets as such, in my opinion.
Yeah, but the follow-up, right? The follow-up fixtures are there. And again, but even if you're looking at the follow-up fixtures,
we want some sort of instant gratification, right, from the asset you bring in. And you might still get that with City, because City actually like that these games are harder, because Pep actually goes for more control in these sort of games. It feels more like 1-0, 2-0 sort of thing.
Yeah. And even otherwise, when we're talking about Palace, Leeds, Leicester, Brentford, Southampton, you want... I think these are the kind of fixtures where if you punt on a United attacker, chances of getting a brace, etc. are higher. And the number of XG we are generating is increasing further and further. We are progressing into the season. The team is settling. So, yeah, I'm for double United attack over defense.
I've got some numbers up here for the attack since the restart. I haven't looked into the numbers previously because that is from the Ronaldo times now. Bruno is actually top for expected goal involvement, but he's only had 3 shots in the box, 0.63 XG. It's 11 chances created. It's a very different role. Yeah. And you mentioned it before than what he was doing under Solskjaer. Yeah. Is he worth 9.8?
Given the fixtures that we have right now, he's a good pick. But it's worth pointing out that, last season or the season before that, outside of his position, Bruno was an outlet pick. It's worth pointing out that he's lost his set pieces to Eriksen and Shaw now, and potentially lost penalties to Rashford as well. So that sort of decreases his value as an FPL pick. What you get with Bruno, though, is expected minutes is off the charts. Like, he's going to play 90 every game. You're not worried about that. He's still in attacking positions. Every time we are creating from the left or the right, Bruno is in the box. Slightly pulled back, but he is in the box for the shot. So if there's a cutback happening, Bruno's going to be shooting. But that also applies to Antony. I've been looking at United games, looking at 20-minute highlights just to see if there's a United attacker to recommend. Who do we go for? Martial. And this is assuming Rashford is first choice, and everybody knows that. As a United attacker, if you need. I still think Antony is a pick because I've been noticing patterns of play, and Ten Hag has mentioned this on a couple of occasions where he wants to give Antony and Delors minutes together so that chemistry develops for them on that right hand side. So I see them playing together. I see them chemistry evolving. What I've noticed though is we tend to create a lot more from our left hand side, and when we are creating from our left hand side, Antony and Bruno and Martial are the three guys deployed to be in the box. Martial's generally in the center of the box. Antony is generally far post, and Bruno is generally playing deeper. The thing is, none of our, whether it's Rashford or Bruno from that side or Shaw, they don't really play the far post ball where Antony is waiting. Like all the goals that have come have happened near the post. They're not going far post. But Antony is stationed in the center of the box. But if I had to rate United attackers, I'd still think despite the Wout Weghorst, it's going to happen. Despite the Wout Weghorst thing, I think Martial's first choice. If you're going to punt on United attacker, Martial, then Bruno, then Antony would be my order.
Martial's numbers are decent. He's actually top amongst United attackers for XG 1.42. He's had the most big chances. But like you said, game time is a risk. We saw that he's not even in training for the Carabao Cup. Yeah. So with the games which are coming every 3 days, and do you mind, game week 22 is in February. It sounds close because we're in 20, but because of all these cup windows, by February, the guys will definitely have, if not Weghorst, another striker in place.
Yeah. But I think that's just to share the workload a little. Like right now, because what happens is Martial's injury prone as well. So United we're competing for fourth, right? So we do need to have a backup in place. So the reason we are getting somebody like a Weghorst is, let's say somebody like a Martial gets injured, we don't have anybody capable of playing that position. So I think it's more of just a backup and sharing the workload a little bit of insurance more than somebody maybe threatening Martial's minutes. I think it's clear first choice.
Bakar, are you interested in moving Mitrovic back to Martial?
It would be for a hit. It's just the fact that, again, I'm not exactly as confident of his minutes as Pernell is, and I do wonder if he's going to get sub 60, 65 minutes like he has been in recent weeks, especially with the congestion that you mentioned. I'm not as tempted because the fixtures aren't as great, and I mean, I'd have to do it for a hit, so I think I won't do it for a hit personally, but if I had nothing better to do in my team, I would have considered.
I'm absolutely in the same boat. If it was a free, I'd possibly consider it, but due to the fixtures not being that easy, again, it's City and Palace away, and then it's Arsenal. These are not easy fixtures. They're all in the space of 7 days. Probably not.
But that's the next two. It's a transfer until 28 in my head. It's not a transfer just for 2 game weeks.
I don't even know if Martial's going to be, like, I know you say about fitness or like game time or whatever, but I think with him, you have to look at it more as short term because you don't know what's going to happen by February. You might sign somebody who's even first choice over Martial.
And by game week 23, you might want Nketiah in that spot anyway.
But what happens now, because Manchester Evening News tweeted about this, so it does look likely that there's an additional double game week for United coming. Don't you think it's worth buying an extra game now in this double for a hit so that you get 2 players in place for both the doubles?
In defense, maybe, but with Martial, you do not guaranteed up to 22.
Okay.
That's why. I think there's a difference over there.
Yeah. Exactly. And if you guys are worried about the expected minutes, which is fair, his injury concerns are fair. If somebody doesn't have money,
subs also, right? 60. There's going to be minutes management. He's not going to play 90 in all these 3 games. That's almost certain.
Yeah. But I just want to say, from a strategic point of view, if the United double does get announced, which it looks likely to be announced, I think you buy in and make your bet with your third United asset this week and just get it over with, is what I do. And if somebody has the money for Bruno, well and good, because most people are selling Cancelo. Think about where you're going to be spending funds in the future. If you're going for an Antony also, I don't see any expected minutes threat there. Go for it. It's a fine pick at 7.4.
I'd be much more willing to do it in defense because there are very few good defensive picks right now. But in attack now, each one of those 7 spots, assuming Andreas is your 8th, is precious. I can see a Darwin possibly outscoring Martial this week, or even a Wilson, etc., etc. I don't think so. That is as much of a priority.
Yeah.
That's what I am.
I'm going to get Nketiah for that slot in 23. So that's why I don't want to commit to Martial right now anyway.
Yeah. And that's a good macro point you make right now also, because if you're taking away a spot from an attacker, I mean, it's sort of interlinked where where you go with your City and United assets are sort of linked to where you want to go with your Arsenal assets as well. There's a couple of factors in my head where, because I have an out in Odegaard and Saka with the Mahrez punt, I'm more likely to take that punt, because if Mahrez, like Zoph mentioned, goes out of flavor, you have an easy out in an Arsenal midfielder. And whether you're committing to a forward or a midfielder when it comes to these two teams, sort of also depend on where you prefer your Arsenal assets. Are you looking at Odegaard and Saka, or are you looking at Nketiah? Where you prefer to make your bet there also? It's interlinked.
And there's no reason to sell perfectly good assets. Let's say somebody like Almiron. Newcastle's fixtures for the next 4 are great. And at 5.8, he's an enabler, right? It's very easy to look at him like, oh, he's not performing, but he's allowing a lot of upgrades and stability in the rest of your team, which you can't really ignore.
Yeah. But I've been future mapping potential moves. And I think both of us might move in different directions, where you're looking to condense your money into a Kane. That's what you're looking at potentially. And I'm looking at diversify money, because I don't want premiums, but I want to increase the flexibility in my squad, upgrade an Andreas to an Arsenal mid or etc., because that money is going to come from Cancelo going down to a cheap defender. And then hop off as per the doubles. That's what my thinking is at the moment.
Shall we move on to the Spurs discussion? I think we've covered City and United.
Yep.
Where are you guys on Harry Kane? Just to let everyone know, he is on 4 yellows, but that is only up till the Arsenal game. If he gets booked against City, he will not miss game week 21.
Yeah.
Where are you guys? Bakar?
Where are you, Zoph? You've been...
See, the thing is with Kane, I'm not looking at him as a transfer for this week. I haven't owned him the entire season, and he has what I think 14 or 15 points less than Haaland. It's ridiculous. I mean, no matter how poor Spurs are, Kane just keeps getting points left, right, and center. So I want to get him in and lock him in. And I'm willing to lose Darwin down the line. I don't want to lose Darwin just yet. I think when Jota comes back and Champions League comes around, there is going to be some risk around Darwin's minutes. Then I want him for Brighton. I want him against Chelsea. Easy fixture. And then after that, I'm probably going to look to sell him on for Nketiah or somebody else. But I want Kane in my team now, set in stone. Double, no double, long term.
So how are you looking to fund him?
So I can do Cancelo down to Stones and Mitrovic up to Kane. I have 3.1 in the bank now. So it's a pretty easy route.
That's a nice transfer. I mean, I'm personally not looking at Kane because I think I have bigger fish to fry in my team. I don't have De Bruyne, so he has to be a priority for me. And again, I mean,
you can still do the move. You can still do the Darwin to Kane move.
I don't want to sell Darwin. I still want to die on the Darwin hill.
I'm in the same boat, right? I think all of us, we all three still like Darwin. You see all the hate he's getting on Twitter, social media, etc. I think all of us three still love Darwin.
It's a good FPL pick.
This hasn't worked out as well as we would have thought, but we've just been unlucky, to be very honest. But yeah, despite that, I'm not looking to move him on. Just definitely not for a hit. And yeah, I'd rather prioritize the City guy because, Spurs three big chances since the restart. Liverpool have had 13, just to put things into context as to how much of a better attack they have. So, I mean, yes, Kane is a good pick. He's the talisman. He will continue to take along with the points here or there, but I just don't think he's worth the hit, or I don't think he's essential this week, personally.
Liverpool are still third on Chase's numbers for rolling XG, 1.7. That's the same as Man City.
It's weird how psychology works, right? I mean, if Liverpool weren't getting these chances and if Darwin wasn't missing those chances which Liverpool are getting on a consistent basis, less people would be hating on him. It's just weird. It's actually a good thing that they're getting so many chances. People need to drill that into their head. However much of a finisher you think him to be, it's good that he's getting so many chances that he's missing rather than them not getting chances at all. So just on the side that. And why I'm not looking at Kane, I think also because where our teams are in terms of how far they are closer when it comes to getting planned for the doubles, the fact that you have De Bruyne in place of, from a psychological point of view, makes you think, how do I get ahead, or how do I make my team better and compensate on being ahead in the game right now. And that's why we're looking at Kane. And I am happy for people famous last words, and Kane will brace in the last two next 2, 3, 4 games. But the fact that he's playing City twice and Arsenal once in the next 4 games has me not looking at him. Because he's playing such caliber opposition, and it's worth citing that despite the North London derby being the North London derby, Arsenal are a way superior team compared to anything they've been in the last 4-5 years. I'm just happy to take that gamble because there's 2 games against City and 1 game against Arsenal in the next 4 games for Spurs. And that's why I'm not looking at Harry Kane right now.
Fair dudes.
Yeah.
The numbers are about, they're about 1 point, they're about 6th right now, rolling actually 1.4 on average per game.
Yeah, but no, man, Harry Kane's just a good pick. Like, he's just a good pick. He's got a lot more outlets. On the personal front, he's in good form. Worth mentioning that Kulusevski's close to fitness last I read as well. So that's also a good thing. So, yeah.
Yep. So Man City and Arsenal are the 2 best defenses on chase numbers. But the good thing is the fixture right after is against Fulham, who are all the way bottom. And then you have City and then you have Leicester, who are 4th from bottom.
Correct.
Kind of balances it out.
It does. And Fulham is a great game for Kane. It's just a good game for Kane.
It's hat-trick potential game.
Yeah, it is.
And
I'm not against the pick, and it's Harry Kane.
And I just want to go back to the De Bruyne part, and I want to emphasize this again. Isolate the hit for De Bruyne. Don't be like, I'm already taking a negative for De Bruyne. I don't want to do this. You've already made up the points on Salah. You're effectively 6 points up on the transfer. So just ignore that, take that, and don't let that deter you from taking other hits or other moves. Look at that move purely in isolation.
Yeah, take hits. And if Zoph is telling you take hits. Like, this is the week to take hits. Don't be afraid, even if it's a -12.
Absolutely. What else do we have on the agenda, guys?
I think a little bit of a plug, man. Just a little bit of a breather. We've got 850 people watching us. Nice crowd. It'd be great if you guys, because I think we're doing a decent job with this podcast. Get some likes there. Make sure you're hitting the subscribe button. If you like this pod, make sure you're sharing our work on Twitter, YouTube, wherever you're liking. It just helps us, and we're grateful for the support you've shown us, and we'd appreciate it even more if you show us even further support. And on that note, we also have a Discord setup. So, if you want, if the pods that we bring out aren't enough, and if you want to interact with us and the great community that we built on our Discord, just need to become a member on YouTube or join our Patreon, and you can interact with us and the great community even further.
In fact, some of those guys in Discord were asking us about Brighton assets. Could we just do a quick ranking about their midfielders, defenders, etc.? Where are you on that?
Not interested in the defenders. Mitoma is right up there as an asset I'm considering. McAllister has entered my thinking because De Zerbi has mentioned about how he's like Gross and Casedo at the base of that midfield, and which means that McAllister is going to be playing a slightly more advanced role. The breaks are off. So I still think I have Mitoma over McAllister, despite McAllister having pens. And then if you're moving to a 3-5-2 with a 4.5 million forward, I don't think they get better than Ferguson at the moment. So Mitoma, McAllister, Ferguson, that's where I am. What about you guys?
Do you think these guys are 7th attackers, a Mitoma or a McAllister? They're a 7th attacker in place of an Almiron, or are you looking at him for somebody like Andreas?
7th, 8th attacker. I have no problems with them being a 7th attacker also.
I think they're playable. Their numbers are actually very good. I don't mind playing them in any of those
I think the 7th attacker material. I wouldn't bother moving Andreas on because we've spoken that Andreas will likely not have a blank in 25. So I think I would look at it. If I'm looking to move the Brighton guy, but if I have a problem with Almiron, I'd probably move to McAllister or Mitoma.
I think Mitoma is the one to go for personally. His numbers, minutes per XG, are actually much superior than the other players. But it's important to see how De Zerbi uses McAllister because, as Pranil mentioned, he was playing number 10 in the cup, and he plans to use him closer to the striker. So maybe give it one more week, and then if Brighton have a double, then reassess as to who the best option is before investing next week.
Cool. Should we look at the matchup? Go ahead.
Before we move into that, there's a couple of just macro points to consider. Like if people are looking at selling Kepa for Ederson, for example, it's worth pointing out the likelihood of, so game week 25 and game week 28 are blank game weeks, but it looks very likely that Chelsea are going to be playing 25 and 28. So that's one player that you have in place that's guaranteed, which means you might not need to use the free hit chip in those weeks. So I'm not really keen on the Kepa to Edison move if you're looking at that. And if people are looking at enablers, I think it's between Brighton assets and Brentford assets. Brentford have been great. Like since the restart, they have been great in attack, and their fixtures right now are also really good. Bournemouth at home, Leeds away, Southampton at home, Arsenal away, Palace at home, United away, Fulham at home. And they are home monsters. They create a ton of chances at home. So I think the decision is not just about Brighton assets. I think it's between Brighton and Brentford assets. And let's say that we don't have an Ivan Toney in the conversation, then Vissa and Mbeumo become even better assets. What do you guys think about that?
Vissa,
when you're comparing the
Vissa really interests me. Mbeumo, I don't think I can go back after all the trauma at the beginning of last season. But I like Vissa as an OOP striker.
Nice. And then we have Ananda Das in the chat mentioning that Leeds United also have a good fixtures run. Let me quickly read out the fixtures. They got Villa away, Brentford at home, Forest away, United at home, Everton and Southampton. Rodrigo or any of these? Somerville over any of these? I think I still just prefer Brighton, and I still prefer Mitoma. I just think he's an absolute baller. Like great skill set. I don't think his position is threatened. Keeps getting into the box as well. I just have him over Vissa or Rodrigo. What about you, Bakar?
Yes, I have Mitoma over these two as well. I just think he's in incredible form. Look at watching him play. The goal he scored against Everton, he sent Tarkowski the other way and scored such a beautiful goal this past game week. He's in a rich vein of form. And Brighton, their attacking numbers in general are very, very good, which is why I was saying that they can be a playable seventh attacker, because they just look like scoring against everyone. I mean, even against Arsenal, they had an XG of like almost 1.5, which is very impressive in itself. And they actually gave them a real go, which is great. And their fixtures coming up are nice as well after this week. So bodes well.
Anything else on the agenda, boys?
Think a little about selling your Newcastle assets also, because Newcastle are one of the teams that have a confirmed game week in Game Week 28. Because people are going to transfer and they play Forest, which is going to be the blank game week. So, just need to add a little bit of caution if you're getting rid of an Almiron, or nobody's getting rid of Trippier. So just wanted to add that. That's all.
Absolutely not. Cool. Let's just do the Fantasypedia matchups.
Yeah, sure.
So we have a bit of a different format. We are looking at now the chances for both the opponents conceded. Now we have the numbers up for Tottenham. Now Arsenal concede a lot of chances down their left side. So on the right side, again, this is Kulusevski's area. If Kulusevski is fit, we expect him to be the major threat.
Yes.
City also similarly on the wing back side. I think that's Martinelli's side. It's probably where they're going to attack. Moving on to Manchester United. City, again, the weakness we've seen over at fullback, but Palace concede a lot of chances from central areas. So obviously there is the appeal of Marshall over there. And Palace, just obviously the numbers are still somewhat decent, but they don't look the same outfit. They're nowhere close to the outfit they were last year. I'm hoping Vieira can turn it around.
Yeah, just a lot more leakier at the back, and you like that. Like that's a good attacking fixture for United assets, in my view.
Right. The number that really stands out now for Manchester City's opponents, Tottenham, 93 chances conceded down the center. I saw that. I had to go back and double check whether this was correct. That screams Haaland points. That is scary.
Yeah. That is scary.
And for United, I think mostly thinking of fullbacks who really can be targeted, I think, but that probably will change in this fixture, right? He won't commit them forward as much. They're probably going to be sitting back a lot more.
Yeah. Great.
That's about it. I think
if you guys want access to these, chance created charts, you just need to follow @Fantasypaedia, and they do a ton of other good content as well. Links in the description below.
Right. Move on to our teams.
Yes. Before we move on to our teams, if you guys have some questions, we'll be doing a short Q&A after our team. So just get them ready.
Right up. I think this is my team first up. I've got Kepa in goal, Trippier, Shaw, Cancelo, Rashford, Martinelli, Almiron, De Bruyne, Mitrovic, Haaland captain, Darwin with Andreas and White on the bench. 3.1 in the bank. I'm looking at Mitrovic to Kane, funded by Cancelo to Stones for a hit. What do you guys think?
I think it's a good move. I think there's an alternative to this as well. If you want to sell Cancelo, you can go from Cancelo to Dalot. And perhaps from Andres to Mahrez.
I don't want that 8th attacker. That's so expensive, bro. It's a big headache. I'm quite happy with Andreas.
Yeah, but you can downgrade him in the future. That's the thing.
Nah.
I mean, Almiron is not that expensive as, let's say, the
I know, but
attacker.
Almiron has Fulham at home this week. He could outscore any one of these guys.
You can bench Mitrovic, right?
That's true. Something to think about. I could possibly keep Cancelo and still go Darwin to Kane, but I want to keep Darwin.
Yeah. So essentially, this gives you Mahrez over Kane and Dalot over Stones.
Mahrez isn't getting anywhere near my team, bro. You could get a hat trick.
Yeah, Zoph is not into Mahrez.
Nowhere near. I'd be very surprised if he makes it into your team also, Bakar.
Cool. Let's see.
Come on, Bakar, get rid of the suit, open up a few buttons, get sexy, and just show it to Zoph. But Zoph, what if the United double gets announced? Looking at a third United asset then?
Probably not. I'm still happier to keep Stones over there because I want Stones there for 23. You have to pick and choose your battles because if you likely will have that.
No, for an extra hit.
No, again, but my point is if I get him in, now it will probably be in that Stones position, right? Then I probably won't have the third City in place for 23. I'll have the United guy for 22, then I have to move him again for 23. I'd rather just get him in place and set him there. So that I can be more aggressive with moves in 22.
Yeah.
This is your team, Pranil. Do you want me to read it out? You have it in front of you.
You can read it out. It'd be great. I'll just get it open.
Cool. It's the same. It's a very similar team. It's essentially Kepa, Cancelo, Trippier, Shaw. You have Salah and Foden instead of De Bruyne and Martinelli. Otherwise, it's the same thing. Rashford, Almiron, Haaland, Darwin, and Mitrovic.
Yeah. At the moment, currently, as we stand, my plan moves are Cancelo to Doherty, Salah to De Bruyne, Foden to Mahrez, and Mitrovic to Martial for a -12. And again, there's a lot of moving pieces. I mentioned that a few times on the pod where I want to see what City do. I want to see if Grealish is looking like he's sick or not. I want to see what Pep says on Friday and then make my calls. But essentially, I'm fairly confident I'm going to do a -8 for sure. I can avoid the -12 by going Cancelo to either a City or a United defender and not getting a triple City attack and a double United attack instead. So that's the thing I'm actually debating at the moment, but this is where I'm at with my moves.
Just repeat them to be Mitrovic to Martial. What else?
Mitrovic to Salah and Foden to Mahrez and De Bruyne and Cancelo to Doherty.
Okay, got it. Let's talk about Doherty a little bit. We didn't cover him at all.
Yeah.
What do you think about Doherty?
I was talking to Bakar, who's our resident Spurs friend, and he thinks he's nailed on, especially because Spence is not getting minutes in cup games also, and he thinks Royal has stopped giving special favors to Conte, and they've sort of fallen out. So yeah, the fixtures right now don't look nice because, Arsenal, City and City, how many clean sheets are they going to keep? But he's getting a double this week, and I'm okay benching him in the home game against City in Gameweek 22 because our other defenders, Shaw's playing Palace at home, Trippier is playing West Ham at home, and White is playing Everton away. So you have 3 good defender backups in that game. So I'm happy to bench Trippier, Doherty in that game and then play him in the other game. So that's the thinking at the moment because I do need to fill that with a slot. So yeah, that's where I'm.
You have to look at him as an attacker, I guess. With Doherty, the clean sheets are a bonus. You just stick him and hope it's a 4.5 Spurs attacker.
Yeah. It's easier to get lucky with a pick like that. That's all.
Where are you on the Spurs defense, Bakar?
I'm personally not considering them simply because of the fixtures. And I think they're more of an option after Game Week 26. Before that, we have other teams with doubles like Arsenal, City. So I would rather get someone from them personally because I just don't rate the Spurs defense that highly this season. They haven't been great. And yes, I mean, if Pranil wants to get them, then you can sort of view him as a long-term move because it will set him up nicely from Game Week 26 onwards. But personally, if I was to buy a defender right now, I'd look at either the City defender or the United defender.
I just want to get your view here. So if I do Cancelo down to either, so which move do you prefer? Go Cancelo down to Stones or Dalot, which means compromise on either Martial or Mahrez.
I wouldn't go near Mahrez. You already know my view. I wouldn't go near Mahrez.
So you'd get Stones and get Martial in
Correct.
my potential plan moves.
Yeah.
What about you, Bakar? Same for you? Actually, I think Bakar might lean different because he is feeling the Mahrez.
I prefer Mahrez to Martial. So I'd go with Dalo and Mahrez personally.
Again, worth citing that this is Tuesday. Our thoughts are going to evolve a lot more by the time Friday comes.
Yep.
So yeah.
I'm still going to wait to see what Luke says on Thursday.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
right. Speaking of special favors now, Bakar, this is your team. Essentially the same as mine. We won't read it out again. It's just Salah in place of De Bruyne. What are you planning this week? How much do you have in the bank?
2.1 million. Salah to De Bruyne is more than likely to happen. And other than that, there are a few routes I can take. I can go from Cancelo to Stones, Cancelo to Dalo, and upgrade either Andres to Mahrez or Mitrovic to Kane. These are the 3 or 4 moves I can do. But Salah to De Bruyne will happen for sure.
Quick math, I think you can do Cancelo to Dalo and Mitrovic to Kane.
Yes, but I think Bakar's feeling Mahrez a little more Zoph.
Yes, I can. If I get Kane, I will definitely get Stones over Dalo.
I don't think you can afford that. You can't do Cancelo, Stones, Salah, De Bruyne, and Mitrovic Kane. I think you're slightly short of that. I know your maths is better than mine, Bakar.
Shots fired. let me check actually. Yeah, but I mean, it's let me check.
I'm sure we'll figure it out during the Q&A. Let's start the Q&A.
Sure.
Just before we get to the Q&A, a lot of people on our Discord.
But my point is that there are a few routes I can take with my team. It's either going to be a -4 or a -8. Let's see where I end up. Again, a lot of this depends on what I see in the cup tomorrow in the City game. Because let's say Cancelo has a worldie tomorrow, you never know. So absolutely. In that case, obviously, I'll obviously decide to keep him. Yeah, that will change things significantly. So I'll wait before assessing my options.
Also, worth mentioning, even if you're playing the EO game, most engaged managers will be on a -4 at least. So even if you're -4, you're at par. So if you're on -8, you've just taken 4 points worth of hits more than the average engaged crowd. So, again, we're encouraging hits here.
Right. Let's do a quick Q&A.
Yeah. Right. Best 5.2 million or under defender. He can't afford Stones. Shaw or Dalo? What do you guys think?
I still like Shaw.
Yeah.
I would go with Dalo.
I like Shaw because he can play centre back as well. That's a big advantage for Shaw.
Yeah. And I don't think Ten Hag trusts Malacia in that wing back spot. So, and especially with these big games coming, I prefer Shaw too. Okay. What are the drawbacks of dead ending with United assets, Zaha, and short-term City assets like Mahrez, and wildcarding after the international break in Gameweek 22? I mean, the big doubles are in 29, 34, 37. You want to know what's going to be happening in those game weeks. And I don't know how much of that information will we have by the time Gameweek 22 comes around, Zoph?
And I mean, you're going to have good fixtures for United even after the international break. You won't want to get rid of your United players. So why wildcard then?
Exactly. I mean, Palace, Leeds, Leicester, Brentford. What more do you want? Okay. Next question. Is Zaha worth a punt given he turns up against big teams? Bakar?
I don't think so. I think there are better mids to prioritize this week.
I agree. Actually, one player I wanted to talk about because lots on Discord were talking about it, and it's a punt I was looking at before the United double got announced, is Son. Like, is the matchups where these tougher fixtures mean more space for Son? Does that influence you at all, Zoph?
No. Go for the best pick from Spurs right now. It's Kane.
I don't mind it if you're not looking at Kane or Son as long-term assets. And if you are going for Son, just know that it's a punt, because it's the whole pedigree conversation. It's fine, but just know that it's a punt. And I think with the United double announced, there are better picks to take.
And it shouldn't be at the expense of De Bruyne. A lot of people are looking at Son as possibly an exit route for Salah in case they already have Foden. It doesn't seem right to me.
Yeah, prioritize De Bruyne, man. For sure, prioritize De Bruyne. Sell Wilson or Darwin for Kane? Wilson for me.
So we'll
You
see.
guys agree or disagree?
Obviously. And don't sell Darwin, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's not that
I
clear
think
cut,
it's-
is it?
it's-
Because Wilson's
In
fixtures
fact,
are quite good.
In fact, this is not the week to sell Wilson either, to be very honest.
Exactly.
This is not the
Yeah.
week to sell Wilson.
Irrespective, if put on the fence, I'd sell Wilson over Darwin though.
Yep.
This
Yes,
pedigree and
obviously.
We're gonna get stick for
Isak
this.
is fit
We're
now.
gonna get stick for this, but I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah. Cool. We have a super chat from Ritvik. Thanks, Ritvik. He has 6 players double game week from the double game week already. What are views on transfer info either Ben, me, or one of the Brighton mid trios, Mitoma, March, McAllister? Like if you're looking at Ben, me, or one of these guys, I mean Mitoma is who you go for. What do you guys think?
I agree.
Completely agree. Yeah.
Okay, one more super chat from Super Soccer Crazy. Who should he take out to get Kinnan? Darwin or Wilson? I think we just
We
answered that.
Same
Yeah,
thing.
we just
Yeah.
answered that.
If it is Darwin, then he can go Saka to Martinelli.
Saka to Martinelli?
If Wilson,
I
he
don't
needs to
think-
downgrade Saka to get Kinnan. I don't think it's worth the downgrade. Like he has to do
Yeah.
Darwin or Wilson to Kane, and to fund that, he has to do either Saka to Martinelli or Saka to Mitoma.
Don't take the
I
hit.
just don't. Yeah,
Don't take the hit.
I agree.
I'd agree
I
with that.
agree. Yeah. Cool. I think that's about it. I think good job on compressing a lot of information in an hour. Anything to add, boys? Anything you think we have missed out
Should
on?
we attempt the Bakar pose before parting?
All right, let's do it. Let's do it on the count of 3.
Looks aren't everything, but nice to
Yeah.
have them just in case.
Nice. Just in case.
Just in case. Good luck, guys. See you next week.
All
Okay,
right.
guys, take
All
care.
right, just boys, text me your potential moves on Thursday before I get on with Luke, so we can just let the listeners know where you guys are at
Sure.
with your transfer.
Absolutely.
All right.
See you guys.
Take care, guys. Cheers.
Take care.